Wonder Woman 1984. I liked it. It's definitely not as good as the first movie, but I still liked it. When going into any comic book movie, you have to remember that it's just that. It's a comic book movie. Things are going to be fudged, and things are going to be a bit silly. But the first Wonder Woman movie didn't feel like that at all, and I enjoyed it immensely. But 1984 felt a little more comic-y to me, so it wasn't exactly what I was expecting going into it. Structurally, it was a bit of a mess. It had a lot of hand-wavy logic and excess screen time that definitely could have been cut down. And the story definitely could have been more compelling. It had all of the pieces to be something great, but they just didn't fit together. So heads up guys, this ain't gonna be spoiler-free. For those of you who don't know, Wonder Woman 1984 was co-written and directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Pine. The character of Wonder Woman was created by a psychologist in 1941 who thought that women should be in charge of the world. The first film embodied that so well. The second one, not so much. We open on a great scene. Amazons are competing for honor and glory through feats of athleticism, and a young Diana competes alongside with her fellow Amazons. But when she falls behind, she takes a shortcut, which disqualifies her from the race, and she learns a very important lesson. There is no such thing as a shortcut. It's a good lesson, and one that comes into play later on in her own journey, as well as the fate of the world. There is no easy path. You can't cheat to get what you want. You need to earn it. And then we jump to 1984. It's a world chock full of nostalgia. Not that I was born, but I have seen old pictures and old movies and old music videos from back then. But what we get is a heist gone wrong when Wonder Woman steps in to foil it. It's fun, it's a little campy, and it sort of reminds me of something out of an old comic book. So I kind of liked it. I have a bone to pick with this entire sequence of events, and later on in the film as well. And that's because that in the older movies, the ones of a more present day, like Batman vs. Superman and the Justice League, Diana has literally walked away from everything after Steve Trevor died. I mean, that's the entire reason that Bruce had to do all that detective work and track her down and piece together her past. But this movie has her running around in full costume in front of people. I mean, she did take out the security cameras, but still, people are going to remember that time that an Amazon warrior made a giant spectacle at a mall. Or, at the White House. I'm pretty sure that the Secret Service has a record of that. But that's not the only thing that doesn't match up. We get the invisible jet, which is kind of cool and sort of makes sense, but that ability sort of comes out of nowhere. We don't see any progression to build up to it, it's just, she can do this. Or the fact that she learns how to fly, but in chronologically later films, that ability is nowhere to be seen. We get two new villains, Kristen Wiig's Barbara Minerva, aka Cheetah, and Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord. Barbara is introduced like every other put-upon character turned supervillain. The bumbling, clumsy, ignored, and overlooked personality that is considered unattractive, but at the same time is completely brilliant. Which is also completely ridiculous because Kristen Wiig is absolutely gorgeous. This is such a cliche, overplayed trope that their desire to be like the hero turns them to villainy, which is also punctuated by her sudden ability to walk in heels, which, is kind of a superpower in and of itself, especially looking at those heels, but still. Plus, Cheetah looks absolutely ridiculous. What is this? Maxwell Lord is a metaphor for the current climate of the world and fossil fuels, and this longing for unlimited consumption without the acknowledgement of the cost. Which, okay, cool, but it definitely could have been executed better, because we didn't really care a lot about him. And his kid, who we were supposed to feel for, was nothing more than a plot point. Plus, after everything that happens, nothing happens to Lord. They wanted to tug at our heartstrings without actually investing anything in his character. My bigger question is, why did he have to seduce Barbara to get the stone? He knew where the stone was, and he legitimately only needed to touch the stone to make the wish to become the stone. So why couldn't he have just done that there? I mean, from a plot perspective, I understand that we needed to get Diana and Trevor into his office to figure out where he was. But at the same time, they still ended up back in the States anyway. And then we wouldn't have had to sit through that pointlessly long and boring scene of them flying through the fireworks. I mean, invisible jet, cool, but still meh. It's this magical stone that causes all the conflict in the film. Like Barbara suddenly becoming like Diana with all this strength and grace, but she's also losing her humanity. And it also brings back Steve Trevor, which is cute and sweet and all of that, I guess. He's in somebody else's body. She only has eyes for him. She only sees him. But here's my problem. This opens a whole new door on consent. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this movie, but this is the one thing that really, really bugged me. This was just kind of ick, especially when the entire film has this running theme of the unwanted nuisance of harassment from men and the empowerment of women. This guy has no control of his body. Steve Trevor basically takes it and goes and does a whole bunch of things in it, including have sex. But what about this guy's friends? What about his family? What about his job? I mean, why did Steve Trevor need to be put into somebody else's body when so many other weirder things were wished for in the film? Like that giant wall appearing out of nowhere, or the nukes. I mean, somebody even had an instant heart attack. But couldn't he have been brought back in his own body? It would have made Diana's sacrifice later in the film that much more tragic and powerful. But instead, it was just everything returning to the way that it was before, because, I mean, that guy did need his life back. It may sound like I'm totally hating on this movie, but I'm not. A lot of people really hated the pacing of the film and said it was super, super slow. And yeah, I mean, it was. There was definitely a lot of things that could have been cut out, but there was also a lot of things that were missing as well. And it had this thing of academic detective work that I really, really enjoyed, and I'm glad they had in there. Things don't need to be action all the time, but I do wish we had gotten a little more exploration of character. This film wasn't set during a war like the first one, so you can't have her storming random things just to create action and drama. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine, but I really enjoyed the non-violent ending to this film. The final battle was an emotional one, and that's not something that we usually see. It relied on a woman's humanity and empathy. She was able to reach people with her truth. And considering Wonder Woman's feminist roots in a psychologist who believed that women should be in charge of the world, that's kind of cool. Because not all conflict should be solved with violence. In fact, we should find ways to solve conflict without it. So was Wonder Woman 1984 the greatest thing ever? No. It wasn't even close to being as good as the first one. It was still fun, even if lazily executed. But I'm definitely looking forward to a sequel. So, until next time, cheers!